Product provided by Nintendo, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Okay, you're going to want to listen to this. Monolith are recruiting new personnel for their next RPG, almost certainly for the Switch 2. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls, and this has been an ongoing process going back months. Monolith have been trying to recruit new people for a while, and it's not just for 1 or 2 positions, they're recruiting a lot. Let's begin with a tweet from @Stealth40k on Twitter. Monolith Soft Tokyo is currently developing a large-scale RPG for Switch 2, so they are hiring like crazy. They've been using their social media to explain what each of the roles does in hopes of attracting talent. By the way, sick piece of art right here. And this has been something that I've been following for a while with one eye open. If you go to Monolith's Twitter, and you scroll down, you will find many posts detailing their recruitment campaign. Like this one, for instance. From July 8th, 2025, the work of a development environment engineer. In-game development, vast amounts of data are created daily. To match this data volume, there's a need to verify whether the game runs as intended on gaming consoles, so we use tools like Jenkins to build systems that automatically handle everything from verification to error reporting. Recruitment information here. They even have a couple of hashtags. And there's a lot of posts just like this. This one right here, Development Environment Engineer Job, in a cute little cat picture. Shout out to Xenosaga 3, shout out to The Bus, shout out to the game we're currently doing a stream series for on both YouTube and Twitch, Xenosaga Episode 2. And like I said, this is another post detailing their office space, this one for Kyoto. Hashtag Monolith Soft Job Introduction, hashtag Recruitment. There's another one. There's so many of these kinds of posts, and they don't stop. Here's another one. And if we actually head to Monolith Soft's webpage and translate the page to English so I can read it, we can find an actively recruiting page. For Tokyo, Japan, they're looking for an application programmer, a drawing programmer, tools environmental programmers, UI UX designer, 3D CG designer for both character and map, effect designer, in-game animator, development environment engineer, rigging artist, modeling TA, effect TA, system management staff, for client, network manager and server, public relations staff. For Kyoto, Japan, they're looking for a 3D CG designer for manager, character, map, and advertising. And for full year employment, they're looking for a project manager, planner, programmer, 2D designer, artwork staff, UI UX designer, 3D CG designer, character, and map, in-game animator, event animator, cinematic artist, effect designer, technical artist. For Kyoto, Japan, they're looking for a 3D CG designer, manager, character, map, advertising, and a 2D designer, artwork staff. They are looking for a lot of positions here. But there's more to this story than that. Let's do a bit of digging. You see, at the top of the web page, where we went over the jobs that they're actually recruiting for, you have 2 buttons. If we click on the R&D one, we get to this screen, or this page. The Monolith Software, the R&D department, an independent division that does not belong to production in the Monolith Software. Remember, we're using like a Firefox translate thing, so like, don't get too hung up on the wording. Efficiency of the development environment of the entire company, research and development of new technologies, support tool development for other sections. And we also have this little blurb over here that it just doesn't translate. But if you head on over to Google Translate and you throw this in, because you can just throw images into here, it says R&D department, programmer, technical artist, big fundraising. Huge fundraising, dude. Big fundraising. Now, on this page, there are actual effects in the background here that they're showing that I don't recall seeing in a previous Monolith game. I haven't played all of them, but like, it does look a little bit rough here, right? But like, maybe it comes from Xenoblade X, or like, maybe they're trying to like, inadvertently tease something coming down the pipeline. This is a cool effect as well. It could just be nothing and them just showing off things that they actually want to do, or things that they will do, you know, when it comes to these positions. If you scroll on down to the bottom here, they say Monolith Soft, the R&D department, click here to apply. Recruiting, drawing programmer, development environment engineer, procedural TA, animation programmer, rigging artist, and modeling TA. Now, if we head back to this page and we click on the RPG one, that one, we wind up at this page. Oh no, it didn't translate it for us. Google Translate to the rescue. Tetsuya Takahashi, General Manager. New work RPG, first production, recruitment of development staff. Again, going off the spirit of the message here, this seems to be them saying, hey, Tetsuya Takahashi, we got a new RPG coming down the pipe here. And they're looking for positions for it. Let's just translate this page. The message. Director of Monolith Soft, CCO, General Director of the Xenoblade series, Tetsuya Takahashi. Hello everyone, this is Takahashi of Monolith Software. This time we are looking for a Monolith Software first production development staff for the first time in a long time. I can't talk about the details here, but the genre is new RPG. New RPG is taking on more new challenges than previous monolithic software works. I'm imagining translating just messed up there, and what was supposed to be said was previous Monolith Soft works. Naturally, the contents that should be made are also sophisticated, and many talented friends are required. This is how we came to this recruitment. I was narrowed down to 8 for convenience. We are basically recruiting in all directions. The required level of work is also in all directions, from asset production to lead. As I mentioned in the previous recruitment, at Monolith Software, we have been producing a small number of titles compared to the size of the titles we make. I was proud of it, but I can't say that either. It is surrounded by the current game scene. I'm imagining translating as having a hell of a time here. For example, the days of making quantities with human seed tactics have long since come to an end. It is natural to be able to provide an efficient production environment. Okay, butcher translation aside, the spirit of the message here seems to be that times are changing and they kind of need new ways to develop games and also some new blood. In order to meet the demands of customers who are getting higher every year, imagining that means older, it is also important to have various knowledge and horizontal connections that make use of them. The genre of role-playing games is fields, battles, characters, quests, stories, etc. Imagine he's just talking about what goes into an RPG. That being stuff like the environments, the battles, the characters, the quests you have, the stories, etc. Each specification is closely linked, and all those elements are like linked together. They're not just like separate elements of a game, they intertwine with each other. Especially if it is an open world type work that has become commonplace these days. It is difficult to be honest. It is difficult to make each of them independent. Of course, there is nothing that cannot be made with it, but if there is no horizontal coordination, it will soon be revealed to the customers who played it, and that is not our intention. I borderline feel as if I could have translated this better, and I don't even speak Japanese, but again, I feel as if the intent here is Takahashi essentially saying that a game that feels disjointed, where all these various elements don't flow into each other and work off of each other, well, players, when they get it in their hands, will pick up on stuff like that, and they don't want that to happen. That's not the type of game they want to make. If you work hard and produce, I want more customers to enjoy it. With that in mind, I have been making works with Monolith Software so far. We are strongly looking for people who can share this idea and those who are looking for such a production environment. It became a bit of a rigid statement, but the organization called Monolith Software is not a square, four-sided organization, at least in the first production. It is also an organization that has become a personality in a relatively tough and rough place. Please feel free to knock on the door. Let's build a new work, a new organization with us. Director Tetsuya Takahashi, let me move my face cam. Director Tetsuya Takahashi sends a new RPG. We are looking for staff who will create the world together. 2D designer, artwork staff, leader class, 3D CG designer, character, 3D CG designer, map, development environment, engineer, field level designer, assistant director, in-game animator, effect designer. What does this all mean? Well, I think it's safe to say that Monolith Soft are working on a new RPG, and I think it's also safe to say that RPG will be for the Switch too. Time will tell, and we don't know yet if the game will also be playable on the Switch 1. However, I think it's far safer to say that it's going to be primarily made for the Switch 2 now that Nintendo has new hardware out the door. A lot of people, myself included, have been waiting to see what the first title Monolith are able to make for the new hardware, seeing as how, like, technically limiting the Switch 1 was, but how gorgeous and expansive and engrossing the environments and the games were that Monolith were able to produce on that hardware. Give them hardware that is way more powerful, that being the Switch 2, and personally speaking, as someone who is a massive fan of what Monolith are able to make and have made in the past, for decades at this point, I am extremely excited for whatever they have cooking up. I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Future Redeemed and Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition in a lot of ways mark the end of an era for the type of game that Monolith make. I am still under the opinion that the story of Xenoblade is continuing with Xenoblade 4 or whatever they end up calling it. And while I do believe the next game will continue the story, gameplay-wise, I'm not too sure how much will actually remain the same. I imagine the spirit of the game, the feel of the game, will largely be the same, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of deviations from what Monolith have done up to this point. In that Takahashi message we just read, it was strongly implied that the next RPG they're making is going to be an open world game, very much, in my opinion, in the vein of the Xenoblade Chronicles games, especially Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which was fully an open world game. Whereas you could argue with Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3, it was more open zones that you could teleport between. I've talked about before how, if we look at the past, in terms of the content cadence that Monolith puts out the door, I think a rough time frame for when we can see or expect to see the next Xenoblade Chronicles game, or whatever this RPG actually is. Because they never did specifically state that it was Xenoblade. It could be something else. I just think the betting favorite would be Xenoblade Chronicles. I think the most likely time that we end up seeing this next RPG for Monolith will be either late 2026 or early 2027, and if I had to be a bit more specific, as we've talked about before in this video, spring 2027. This leaves us with a question, though. What game are they making? Could it be another Xenoblade Chronicles installment? Could they somehow be going back to Xenosaga? Could it be something new? Well, in my opinion, I believe this to be Xenoblade Chronicles 4. Or at least, that's what I believe the next big game they're putting out is. Maybe the recruiting that they're doing here is not for Xenoblade 4, but for something down the line. Or something that is extra and separate to Xenoblade 4. Whether that comes out before it or after. And while I am absolutely loving Xenosaga as I'm playing through it on stream, the problem at the end of the day is that, well, Nintendo and Monolith don't have the license for it. It's Bandai Namco. And while they've managed to be able to get Cosmos, the main mascot character from Xenosaga in Xenoblade 2, while they've managed to name-drop characters like Dimitri in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, even to the point of shouting them out in the credits, to all the Xenosaga references in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, while I would personally love the idea that Xenosaga could come back somehow, some shape, some form, and maybe even Monolith get the IP, I don't think it's the most realistic answer to what they're working on currently. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something Xenosaga related down the line, but whether or not that happens in the near future or way down the line, I believe to be largely dependent on the success of Xenoblade Chronicles itself. We know back in around 2019, Bandai Namco did not view it as a worthwhile venture back then to do something with Xenosaga. A lot has changed with Xeno and Xenoblade since. It's been, well, about 6 years. And if Xenoblade continues to get more popular, who knows? I could see companies, especially companies like Square Enix for Xenogears and Bandai Namco for Xenosaga, in a world where Xenoblade is far more popular, want to cash in on that popularity with connected IPs they already have the license to. But at the same time, and I'm not a developer or anything, but some of these positions at least give me the initial impression these would be spots you fill early in the development cycle if we're assuming Xenoblade 4 is coming out late 2026 or early 2027, if they go somewhat off of precedent when it comes to release schedules. It could also just be how Monolith handles things. At the end of it all, time will tell. But whether this is for something way down the line, or they are actively recruiting for the next installment of Xenoblade Chronicles, or they're doing something entirely new, Monolith have never really disappointed me. Every game I play of theirs ends up being one of my favorite games of all time. So whether it is Xenoblade Chronicles 4, whatever they end up calling it, Xenoblade Saga, who knows, whether they somehow get the ability to make Xenosaga 4, even though that might genuinely just be Xenoblade Chronicles 4, or they want to do a new IP altogether and start something new, you know I'll be excited for it and you know I'll be there. And if you want the news from some random bald guy on the internet when it happens, why don't you leave a like and subscribe? And if you're new to Xenoblade Chronicles, you should really check out this video that I made for the advice that I would give as a longtime Xenoblade fan for anyone fresh to the series. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on where you would like to see Monolith go from here. What are your realistic expectations, and what are your most wild, unrealistic expectations? I would love to hear your crazy, crazy ideas. Follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, Jmulls G. I have a Discord in the description down below. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye everybody, until we meet again!